Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. It's time to harvest our raspberries before the birds come and pick it clean. Now you know they're ripe when they come off easily. Any that are kind of red, they'll be ready to harvest this afternoon. Right now they ripen fast and we harvest twice a day. Now in the mornings, you'll see some bees still asleep. And they're not dead, they're just sleeping because at nights, it's in the 50s. Now I'm going to harvest behind, but it'd be a challenge to film it. But I am going to show you back here. This is several servings for our yogurt. Raspberries will spread. I started in this area, I think it was 4 years ago. And every year, they've moved over a little bit. I still have a little bit of a gap on the trellis, but I think next year that's going to fill in. So all of these are new spring canes, and they've made fall fruit. And they're gonna survive the winter, their leaves will fall off. And in the spring, they're gonna fruit again. So they'll give me fruit twice. And when the spring fruit is finished, they'll die and I'll cut them out. But while it's fruiting in the spring, new canes will start to grow. So raspberries give me a double harvest. It's time we plant out some more lettuce. But first, we need to move this cardboard. Now, this side of the garden has already been sheet mulched. I put down cardboard and wood mulch, I think in June or July, but this cardboard is for the left-hand side of the garden. Let's get it moved. I tend to plant my lettuce 1 foot apart. And this Hori knife equals 12 inches. The spring beets and cabbages were here, and I harvested those in June. Then I laid down the cardboard and covered with mulch. So now we need to scoot that mulch apart, punch through the cardboard, and plant directly into the soil. This is a morning glory root. And this whole garden is full of these roots. Laying down the cardboard does help keep them under control. See how soft the soil is and how dark brown and rich? That's because every year I leave any old leaves or organic matter, cover it with cardboard and top with mulch, and everything below that cardboard breaks down into rich soil. It feeds the garden. I have the most success when I start my seeds indoors in the basement under lights. That's what works best for me. So these lettuce seedlings are 3 weeks old. I sowed my seeds and they germinated in just a few days. When they were a week old, I potted them up into bigger pots because I had started them in the 2-inch soil blocks. So when they were 2 weeks old, I put them outside to harden off. So now, at 3 weeks old, I'm going to plant them. So here's an example, several inches down with some tape from some old cardboard. And yes, the best practice would be to remove the tape. I don't tend to do it just because of time constraints. But if you're not comfortable leaving the tape, go ahead and remove it. Do what works best for you. Now these varieties of lettuces are both heirlooms from my own saved seeds. This is red oak leaf lettuce, and I've been saving these seeds for 12 years. The other one I think is a red romaine. It came in a free seed mix, so I'm not exactly sure of the variety. That's my second year to save those seeds. Normally I would water these in to make sure there's no air bubbles in the roots, but it's possible that what's left over from the edge of a tropical storm is going to arrive soon. We're not going to get hit by the full impact, but whatever's left over. So it's going to rain here for several days and take care of that for me, but I do want to protect these plants from me accidentally stepping on them. So this will make sure I don't accidentally back into them. Like when I'm working on these blackberries that I need to prune soon, I need to get rid of the dead canes. I don't want to step backward and kill these young lettuce plants. Now these are ready to start harvesting. This is the red oak leaf lettuce, and this is the red romaine. And the third one is a black seeded Simpson. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. We're going to do a fast okra update. Look how tall they are. I want to measure them. I think this one here is the one we measured before. It was 8 feet tall 2 or 3 weeks ago. Wow, it's 9.5 feet tall. Next year I will definitely start my okra seeds in the basement indoors in February, because the challenge here to grow okra are the cool summer nights. There's a few okra I want to harvest, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to film while I do it. Let's see. This one here, we're saving this for seed. There wasn't any ready on that one. Now don't worry about this line. It's not a power line. It's an old phone line that's not used anymore. Now I never told you guys about this okra that I repaired. When it was young, we had an awful rainstorm and it broke down here at the base. It was about that wide and it was only hanging by a small strip. So I took that medical athletic stretchy tape and wrapped it around there and it healed itself. It kept growing. It was right here. I'm assuming it's because okra's sticky. And I tried it with some sunflowers, but it didn't work with them. Oop, I hear the Canadian geese. Time for them to fly home. That's not bad for mid-September. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. Today it's time to plant the green stalks with our fall flowers. I started these flowers indoors in late June. These are sweet alyssum and snapdragons. In fall, I like to unstack my green stalks for winter. That gives the plants more exposure to the sun and moisture. But first, we need to trim some of these plants. Creeping Jenny does really well in a green stalk, and it will come back after winter. Here we're in zone 7A, 6B, North Central Maryland. Now we need to trim some of these herbs. This is marjoram. Herbs also do really well in green stalk planters. I need to make some cute tags for these two. Now the third pocket, well, actually there's 6 pockets, but 3 I plant with flowers. So I had pansies, but I left them against the house in the shade for too long in the row in the back. They just rotted. So for these 4 tiers, I'm going to have to buy some pansies. Now I'm using this hardware cloth to prevent squirrels from digging in the soft soil. And I'm covering with mulch for 2 reasons: to hold in the moisture, and I don't want animals getting their fur stuck on this hardware cloth. And I'll replace those sticky yellow insect controls, just not today. Let's go check on the other 3 green stalks down in the breezeway. I planted them out 2 or 3 weeks ago. We have this one big, beautiful trailing rosemary. And I ordered more, and they came in May, and I planted them out, but they never really grew. So now I want to try to propagate this healthy plant. I've pinned it here in this soil, hoping it'll take root. See this little guy? It just stayed small. I think it just didn't get enough sun. So some of the pansies did survive. They're planted along here. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. My name is Judith, and today we need to weed our fall carrots. Now these were sown early August. and I thinned them to 3 inches apart about a month ago. Now for full-size carrots, you don't want to crowd them, and you want to have them weed-free. We had a hailstorm about 3 weeks ago, and if you watch that video, at that time the carrots were small and they were all flopped over, but they've stood back up and recovered well. The soil is really soft because it's mixed with sand, and I've eliminated the rocks about 9 inches deep. This variety are purple cosmic heirloom carrots from my own saved seeds. They make about a 1 inch in diameter carrot that's about 6 inches long. Squirrels up on the roof looking at me like, what are you doing? That's a volunteer tomato. The squirrels like to sit on top of that net dome and eat tomatoes they steal from the neighbor. So I guess some seeds dropped in there. These are going to be ready to harvest mid-October. Now we need to get the net put back on because the squirrels will dig in here. Unfortunately, squirrels can chew through this netting. On this back side, there's a couple of holes. I've had to block them off with some bricks. Good morning and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. Judith here, and it's time to weed and sheet mulch the strawberries. I just collected more cardboard. So it's time to lay some down here to block out the weeds. This is the reason I prefer to lay cardboard in the garden. I really don't enjoy weeding. Now I could just leave these weeds and cover them over with cardboard, except really stubborn perennial weeds like this morning glory. It's very persistent and tough to get rid of, so I'd rather pull it out. This is actually millet from the bird seed. I moved these strawberries about a month ago, and it looks like only one didn't survive, but the rest, they're doing well. I'm going to leave it for now, and later, when I thin the front strawberries, and I'm going to move those over too, I'll transplant one here to the back garden. The front strawberries, some of them are very crowded too. I've been saving our Amazon boxes and collected cardboard on recycling day. Wow, the bugs are horrible today. I've slipped an extra piece of cardboard under there. You don't want to leave any cracks because weeds will grow up through those. Now I need to fix behind it and in between the strawberries because it's fair time this week and I'm working out here waiting for the weather to warm up so I can change clothes and walk to the fair. So let's hurry up and get finished. Now, it would have been much easier to lay down the cardboard first and then move the strawberries, but at that time I didn't have any cardboard. And I've learned, taking care of the fall garden, I have to start in August or I run out of time. And this week I haven't done much out here because I've been walking to the fair most days and enjoying it. I'll come back later and cover this with mulch. But for today, I want to put the hoops and the netting back on, because if I leave the netting over there, the birds are going to get stuck in it. So let's go ahead and get this finished. Good morning, Judith here, and welcome back to Withrow Urban Homestead. It's time to tie up our green beans. I'm going to use these zip ties. That's the easiest way for me. Now these were direct sewn at the end of August. I love my birds. That young catbird was actually born here, and every morning he calls to me. The seeds germinated in just a few days. These plants are 4 weeks old. They're developing flower buds. I spaced the green beans 4 inches apart, and I added these support stakes before I sowed the seeds. This variety is heirloom contender green beans. It's a bush variety. But you will see some small vines, like over here. That's because bush beans, they were all developed from vining beans. It's in their genes. I'll come back later, and as the plants grow and these zip ties get too tight, I'll snip them off and adjust them. These should be ready to harvest mid-October, in about a month. Now remember, when we sowed these, we covered it with a mesh net. We did that because we didn't want the squirrels, the animals, to dig, but fortunately we did that because 3 weeks ago we had a hailstorm. And if it wasn't for that netting, it would have destroyed these plants. They were still small. Now the net, it did poke through all of these supports, but the plants themselves, they were fine. I'll come back and sheet mulch with cardboard over here. But for now, the weeds aren't bad. It's because this area is getting less afternoon sun because we still have okra growing along this side. Speaking of squirrels, that looks much better. Good morning, Judith here, and it's time for a red cabbage update. These acres red cabbage seeds were started indoors under lights at the end of June. I planted them out mid-August. So they've been growing here for about a month. They've been protected with this netting from the very beginning from the white cabbage butterflies, cabbage worms. And it looks like the heads are starting to form in the middle. They're going to be ready to be harvested mid-November. Good morning, Judith here, and it's time for a red cabbage update. These acres red cabbage seeds were started indoors under lights at the end of June. I planted them out mid-August. So they've been growing here for about a month. They've been protected with this netting from the very beginning from the white cabbage butterflies, cabbage worms. And it looks like the heads are starting to form in the middle. They're going to be ready to be harvested mid-November.